Hey, what is up YouTube? This is Marma Master coming at you guys from the Teen Time Riders Yugioh channel today. And I'm back again to profile the deck that I took to regionals this weekend in Nashville, Tennessee. I was not expecting to really play in regionals and was mostly thinking that I was going to go X3 drop and just play in either side events or play in or just like trade people around. But I ended up playing 6 of the 7 rounds of the day because, I just really enjoyed meeting people. All my opponents who I faced were really fun and super friendly people. And it was just a really fun, cool kind of day. And taking this deck was the first step into kind of, playing with some of my more casual builds in the event and really trying to learn a lot about how these decks play. But other than that, guys, this deck performs so much better than I thought it would. I made a few tweaks from the build that I did previously, and I'll also share a couple of the things that I learned on the way. So guys, let's get into the profile. So starting things out, we have 2 copies of Elemental Hero Neos, and we're playing one of each of the Neo Spacians. Now, you're not really using these guys much for their effects, but mostly you're going to be using them just as materials for the rest of your cards, such as like the EN space and whatnot like that. But I would say that the 2 best Neo Spacians that you have in the deck are Aqua Dolphin and Air Hummingbird. Air Hummingbird was the best on the day because in time, you just normal summon him or search him out and then activate his effect to gain you 2,500 life points because your opponent's got 5 cards in hand. And that pretty much just allows you to just carry home the game. Next 2 cards we've got in this deck, guys, are 2 copies of Spirit of Neos. This is probably the engine that makes your deck work. 2 copies in here allows you to see it when you want and not when you don't. I usually like to have 1 on field so that I can get a search off, and then 1 in hand so that when my opponent attacks, I can just special summon him and protect my life points. Very, very good card and searches most of the spell cards in your deck. Now, up from 1 copy in my character deck build, I am now running 3 copies of Crosskeeper. Crosskeeper is one of the best cards in your deck when it comes to just special summoning pieces from your grave or from other different places and just making sure that you have enough monsters on the field to go for your various different plays. So anytime that I had like a 2 material fusion, this would allow me to go for a triple contact fusion, for instance, or go for Cosmo Neos play, or special summon my Spirit of Neos out of hand. Next card in the deck, and I'm not really much a fan of it that much anymore, and so I don't know if I'll take it out entirely, but that's Neo Space Connector. Just the only reason that I run this in here at 1 is because it's very, very good bait for your opponent to just Ash or Imperm or whatever. Like, this is one of your power cards. You really, you want them to negate this, and you don't want them to negate your EN Engage Neo Space, because that is, that is one of the cards that really gets your combos going. And then we also got 1 copy of Rainbow Dragon for that Rainbow Neos play. I drew into this quite a lot on the day, and so I'm thinking about possibly removing the Rainbow Neos engine from this deck entirely, which is something that I never thought I would say, but I think when it comes to competitive consistency, the power offered by Rainbow Neos, which is a very, very strong power, might not be enough to justify having Rainbow Dark Dragon or your Rainbow Dragon or whatever in your hand rather than a combo piece. So just something to think about when you guys are deck building. Next, we've got our hero package. We've got 1 copy of Stratos, 1 copy of Shadow Mist, 1 copy of Prisma, and 1 copy of Blazeman. Same thing here with the hero package as well. Just not really, I would say like Shadow Mist is one of your best heroes. Shadow Mist and Prisma are the 2 that I think really carry the day. And, Blazeman and Stratos are okay, but, if you are looking for things to cut, I would definitely cut them before you cut Shadow Mist or Prisma, because you have lots of ways to trigger your Shadow Mist as well. And if you choose to run your Vision Hero package, you will be able to get that effect off in addition. And then for our final monster in the deck, we have here Elemental Hero Honest Neos. I did not see this almost at all during the day, and then when I did see it, it just was not really all that useful. I think a lot, with the emphasis on board building and powerful unaffected monsters and different things like that, this card is not really that good. at the current point in time. However, you know, as I've said in previous deck profiles, guys, like the card has just been a really fantastic piece for the deck. So it is not something that I would say like take out entirely, but I think in this current format, it might not be as good. Next card in here, this is probably the best card in your deck. We've got 3 copies of EN Engage Neo Space. And the reason why this is so good is because it basically allows you to send it plus any Neo Spacian is a 2-card Cosmo Neos or a 2-card triple contact fusion such as Nebula Neos. This card can just get you into pretty much anything that you need and is a combo starter. You do not want to see this get ashed or whatever, and it's just one of the best cards in the entire deck for that. You know, you can like plus 4, you know, plus like 2 or 3 off of this card. You know, if you go for, you know, Shadow Mist from Grave and special summon the Spirit of Neos and just do a whole bunch of searching, grab a Prisma, and then you've pretty much got your Cosmo Neos play first turn setup just like that. Next card we've got in the deck is 3 copies of Neos Fusion. Now, I'm very, very split on this card. I don't know if I want to cut this card down to 2, keep it at 3. You know, I think a lot of people have tried to take the card out entirely. I think that as a Foolish Burial for this deck, it is unmatched. And, you know, a lot of people may choose to actually run Foolish Burial, the actual card in this deck, just to like send things to the grave or to, you know, get some more of your effects off. But Neos Fusion, just the monsters that you can summon with it, like your original 6 fusions, are not going to be cards that really, you know, either protect you or interact with your opponent. And so you know, if you're going to take out the Rainbow Dragon, like, I think that cutting down the number of Neos Fusion might also be a very wise decision. Now, you know, you guys know that I love this card so much, and you know, it makes me sad to say that, but I think that, you know, slowly we may kind of see Neos Fusion getting power crept out of the format. Next, we've got a card that probably will not get power crept, at least not in the meantime. That is EN Shuffle. Any Elemental Hero or Neo Spacian monster can be shuffled back into the deck, and then you can special summon another Elemental Hero or Neo Spacian. The best part about this is since it shuffles back that monster, you know, you can do a number of different things, not only with your Elemental Heroes to get any like piece of Neo Space material that you need for Cosmo Neos. You can instantly grab your Spirit of Neos out of the deck to get an extra search and an extra Neos play on board, or you can, you know, activate your Prisma's effect, send one to the grave, and then send your Prisma back because it counts as a name, and then special summon that back, and then send another name as well. So, you know, the fact that Prisma sends for cost as well is really, really good. And then its graveyard effect to shuffle back a Neos into your deck is also amazing, because I will say about the number of Neoses, guys, is, you know, the optimal number in this deck is 2.5, which is crazy to say because 3 is too much and 2 is too few. And so EN Shuffle is great for being able to shuffle those Neoses back. Next is 2 copies of E-Call. This is another card that might be able to be removed, but just in here so that you can search out any of your, you know, your Prisma or some of your other cards as well. And it's also good ash bait. 2 copies of Instant Contact grabs you your Flame Wingman or other cards out of the deck as well. So very, very good card. And then we've got our Field Spell Engine. 2 copies of Favorite Hero, 1 copy of Neo Space, and 1 Necro Valley. Now, the Necro Valley was kind of something that I wanted to test out to see if I could catch any graveyard reliant decks, but it almost never came up and actually bricked me in a number of duels as well. You know, I am not really like, you know, I wasn't really crazy about topping the event, as I said, so I didn't feel afraid about kind of testing out some of the different strategies I might be able to employ with it. But, you know, my goal was to draw out the Necro Valley or other cards with my Favorite Hero, but Favorite Hero ended up being a little bit too slow sometimes to do much. And as the deck kind of shifts away from the 2 material Neos Fusion monsters into other cards, you know, having Neo Space, which is a card that just kind of like is there to protect them and keep them on board, is not as useful as it might have been, you know, during my last profile or several years ago when this was like the only kind of plays that Neos had. Next, we've got one copy of Miracle Contact. I might bump this number back up again, guys, because being able to, interact and play on your turn against your opponent, I wish I had a little bit more of that rather than having to wait for my favorite contact to trigger as a trap card on my opponent's turn. Next, we've got one copy of EN Wave. I think I'm going to take this out of the deck entirely. This was in the deck for a while for more character senses, and the problem that I have with this card is that it's not a usable combo piece. It's great when you're already winning the game to give you a bit of extra advantage, but when it comes to actually, being in a spot that's behind, which is where you'll often be while playing Neos in a regional, this is the nature of what you're going to have to deal with. And so it's like EN Wave is just a very, very, it's just, it might not do as much for you as you think. And so I feel like I was constantly siding it out in the duel. Next, we've got one copy of Polymerization just in here for the, to search off of the engaged Neo space, and then finally a single copy of Reinforcements of the Army. Closing out our traps, because they're just two, this is Favorite Contact, probably the best trap card in the deck. Shuffles back anything, can use this to shuffle back to make your Cosmo Neos, and it doesn't even shuffle back, it just puts them on the bottom of the deck so you don't have to worry about drawing them, and then you put them on the bottom of the deck, and then you have your Cosmo Neos play, and it's just super, super good. I use this to go for Cosmo Neos, I use it to go for Nebula Neos, I used it to go for just a bunch of different cards in my extra deck throughout the duel, and it can summon pretty much anything in your extra deck. So it is not, bound just to Neos fusions like your Miracle Contact is. So Cosmo Neos and Favorite Contact are very, very good cards in this deck. So that is it for our main deck. Now, extra deck is up next, guys. Actually, let's, so the extra deck here, we've got one copy of Rainbow Neos, pretty self-explanatory, very, very good card. But as I said, guys, running the Rainbow Dragon, or like, Garnet in the deck is not necessarily, one of the best plays you can make. We've got one copy of Dark Neos, Grand, Air, Glow, Aqua, and Flare. Now, these guys are nice, but I did run into a lot of issues when my opponents would pop Neo Space, or they would pop my Favorite Contact, or prevent the Neo Space from hitting board, which means these guys would often shuffle back during the end phase. But, I would still say that they are, kind of worthwhile cards to consider, especially when you're, working on and building your deck as it is. One for triple contact fusions, we've cut down the number to just Nebula Neos and Storm Neos. These guys are just, Nebula Neos is really, really awesome for just being able to kind of like draw you a whole bunch of cards. And so I made this against a Purely player who I played, and just drew a bunch of cards off of his cards. And I really couldn't negate things because like a lot of his stuff was unaffected. And then the Storm Neos I made against one of my friends, Yugioh, and try to pop the back row. I also made Storm Neos game one when I was playing Mikanko against my friend Sean Scott, and he I used that to pop his back row as well. So Storm Neos, I was thinking about taking it out for Marine Neos, but I was like, sometimes this card will come up, and it did come up twice on the day, and so I'm very happy that I kept it in the deck. Now, Brave Neos came up quite a lot. Unfortunately, he is like one of your only first turn plays aside from Dark Neos, and so, you really want to get the Cosmo Neos play off, but Brave Neos is great because you can send your spell card to the graveyard, or the Crosskeeper to the grave, and just get some draws off like that. Now, our two kind of other cards in here, we've got one copy of a Neo Spacian Marine Dolphin. Now, this card is actually fantastic, guys, because what you do with it is you can activate this off of the instant contact and special summon it to the board. And if you got a Neos on the field or grave, it won't go back to the extra deck. Has the same exact searchable effect as Aqua Dolphin does. It's from the extra deck, so it can't be ashen, and you can you can send a card from your hand to the grave to take any card in your opponent's hand that has 900 or less attack and send it to the grave. And so it's perfect to, have great access to rip out your opponent's hand traps. And it's just super good. not much else to say about that, but and also gives you an extra piece for Cosmo Neos that is actually searchable. So you can always make sure that you have the Cosmo Neos play live, even if you can't get to all 3 Spacians. 1 copy of Flame Wingman, pretty self-explanatory, that's just there for the Shining Neos Wingman combo. Then we've got 1 copy of Cosmo Neos, and finally, Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. I didn't go into Wake Up much at all throughout the day. I just didn't have enough materials or pieces or get into enough fusions. There was just quite a lot of disruption. I did go into Flame Wingman against Shang and his Makanko deck, which popped a bunch of his back row and then was just kind of on board. But unfortunately, because Makankos are 0 attack monsters, even with a beefy 2,500 defense points, guys, you know, he was still able to crash into all of my stuff for game, which is unfortunate. But that's going to do it for our extra deck. And now, guys, for the first time on the channel in a while, we've got a side deck. It wasn't really much, but I just figured I'll just showcase you guys just so you can see it. Just decided to run 3 Lava Golem, typical. Got 3 XYZ Encore, 3 Summon Limit. This is just for the, you know, just for Kashyyyr or any other deck that summons quite a lot. 3 copies of Chaos Hunter, 2 Impermanents, and 1 copy of Elemental Hero Marine Neos, one of the ones who stays around. And that was my regional deck profile, guys. I don't know if I'll do like a regional report or something like that, but you know, I really enjoyed playing the deck, and I think it is an amazingly fun deck, and I learned a lot about how I want to change and grow and you know, build the deck in my own way moving forward. There are a lot of changes that I want to make. There's tons of stuff that I learned, and so I felt like the regional itself was a very worthwhile experience for me in terms of just figuring out how I want to build this deck moving forward. You know, for all I know, like Marine Neos or other cards could make their way into this particular build, and that's a really exciting proposition to me. But if you guys made it towards the end of the video, thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate the love and support on the channel. And yeah, this is the Merman Master signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.